live here. My computer is saying rotate my screen. We had this issue before. Let's see here. My screen is oriented wrong, and I don't know how to change it. Don't want that. Remove that. There we go. Bear with me a moment. We'll get this fixed. Hopefully. Nope, not that. No. No. All right. We'll have to go this route, I guess, for whatever reason. Bear with me a moment. We're going to do a weird view today. Yeah. All right. Well, get my microphone out of the way. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Sorry for the camera angle. I had it set up to be in oriented differently, and my system has decided that it wants to do it different. So I do apologize for that. Let me see if I can raise up my camera a little bit. The struggles of being a YouTuber. All right. Well, we'll live with it. It is what it is. Hopefully people are live here. I don't see any action. So if you are live, there you go. You said hi. Thanks, Matt. So again, very weird camera angle. Don't know what all is going on here, but we'll make it work. Gotta love it. All right, let me change my position so I'm a little more there. All right, tap the microphone. Everything is good. Give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, no. All right. So I've got a few questions ahead of time that did not populate in the chat. And then we're going to answer those, and then we're going to discuss a few things. But basically, this live stream is for you all. I open the floor to you. Whatever you want to discuss, audio related, drop it in the chat, and we'll discuss it. This is, things you agree with, things you disagree with, things you wonder why. Maybe something that just always bothers you. You want to rant about it a little bit. Maybe something that you truly love or have experienced and you want to share it with everybody. You feel free to critique me, my style, my presentation, who I am, all that kind of stuff. All I ask in this live stream is that you're polite, and that you refrain from overly flavorful language, and that you don't attack other people, but that you voice the opinion, and that if you're going to argue or, present other alternative viewpoints, that you do it to the viewpoint, not the person. And let's be civil in regards to this, but I don't see a lot of live streams like this. I see a lot of open questions, Q&As, and I see a lot of videos by, reviewers and content creators where it's about what they want to talk about. They might rant about something that's on their mind, but rarely ever do you, the viewers, get an opportunity to really present that. And so I want to hear from you all, and I want to just chat it out. And this is your day. So I thank you all for coming. And with all that said, I'm going to answer a few questions. One of them that was mentioned to me sent to me private, and it was asked about was the opinion that using your PC or your laptop headphone output is good enough. Using your laptop's your laptop's internal sound card is good enough, and whether or not reviewers should only use that. Also about the Apple dongle, is it good enough? And so we'll start with the Apple dongle first. My opinion about the Apple dongle is not very good. I was not impressed by it when I did hear it. Now, keep in mind, I am a PC and Android user, and from what I understand is the Apple dongles do not work real well with those devices. And so opinions do matter in regards to the Apple dongle when it comes to that. Using it on an Apple device, I have not heard it, so I do not know how that works. But my opinion of the Apple dongle was it was just a mediocre at best type of dongle. Did not sound really clean and clear. And it just did not sound very good with my Android devices at that time, which I think I had a OnePlus. So I'm not really a good source in that regard. Do I think that reviewers should only use one dongle or something? No, actually, I think you should test things on various sources, even if you don't believe that sources sound different. You should still use different sources to see how something performs, because something may stand out, maybe something will happen differently, things like that. So I think you should use multiple sources. So the Apple dongle thing, even though I'm not really able to fully give an opinion as to how it performs because I'm not an Apple user, I think making claims, especially claims in the past, they're not made as often now, claims about it being the only thing you really need, I think those are ridiculous and laughable. As far as PC laptop use, this is all very variable and very subjective because there's a lot of internal sound cards and a lot of products that you can use on your laptop that differ in sound and performance. So depending on what when you're using, some of them are halfway decent. For example, my MSI that I have is a pretty decent internal sound card. It's a gaming laptop, gaming creator laptop. Could I use it? Yes. Is it listenable? Yes. Is it as good as using an external source, DACs and amps, even dongles? No. I do hear a difference between it, but it's not one of the worst ones. Now, the one in my Chromebook, I can't listen to it. It sounds awful. The one, that back in the day that I had on phones was really awful. Didn't sound very good at all. But using my MSI, if I was in a pinch, sure. Could I do a review off of it? No. So yeah, I do think that claims that all you need to use is your external headphone jack on your laptop to do reviews, and reviewers are doing that. There are some out there. I think that's, again, going back to, like I said about the Apples, I think it's a flawed way. I think you need to use multiple sources, and you need to be able to hear different sources. If you really can't hear differences, personally, I think that there's a problem, even as a reviewer. And I'm not going to point anybody out directly, but if you can't hear differences between sources consistently, even if the differences are very subtle, but you can still hear them. If you can't, I'm going to question why you're being a reviewer, and the confidence as a consumer that I have in you as a reviewer, if you're not able to tell me differences between sources. All right. A couple other questions. Fred sent out a message on the original post that this live stream was mentioned on, and he put in a couple questions. He said, do you see new technology in the horizon that could change the hobby for the better? There is some newer stuff coming out, especially with like DAC chips and amplifiers. That's quite interesting. And some of the ways that they are being able to implement that. I do think that you're going to start to see some changes in that regard, and maybe a little bit more clarity and abilities in that regard, even from the budget stuff. IEM wise, there are some new technologies. They're starting to really build upon the planar drivers. And I think they're starting to figure out the sizes of planar drivers make a difference. And then there's also some headphones. They're starting to explore hybrid headphones in that regard, implementing some planar driver along with dynamic. And I think that you'll start to see that change and grow, and manufacturers start to explore how they can tune that. And you'll start to hear things in a little different way. And that's kind of what's standing out to me. IEMs right now for me seem to be a little bit in a kind of a lull. Everybody's kind of doing things the same way, and things are starting to sound the same. We went through this a couple years ago, and so it'll take a bit. It'll take a little bit for somebody to kind of go, "Hey, let's try this technology," and they just throw something random out there, and then other people will kick in and start to use it, and play around with it and change that. But I think IEMs right now are kind of all kind of going through the same phase of sounding the same. Next question from Fred. He said, I went back and watched your review of the Thea Audio Oracle Mark III. In light of what happened, would you ever consider trying another collaboration with another manufacturer? Yes, I would. Fortunately, that kind of just fell through. There have been some random rumors about collaboration. I don't want to go into a lot of details, but there has been some various discussions that I'm not really at liberty to delve out total information about when it comes to collaborations, but I'm not opposed to doing another one. I am a little bit more leery about things and how it's handled. So hopefully I'll get another chance. And then Fred asking another question. He said, I have the Sony NWA55, use it as a DAP, but I noticed that most DAPs do not have a vocal normalizer where you don't have to constantly adjust the volume. Do you know why? You know, a lot of software has that. I personally do not use it. The reason for it is adjusting the gains and the levels of things, and so it will kind of artificially make things sound more even. You know, you're just going for it. I don't have to adjust my volume all the time. But it's not truly reproducing sound accurately. And the way that it was recorded with your noise levels and with your dynamic range and things like that. So I think that if some of these DAP manufacturers are going for a more neutral presentation and an accurate reproduction of each song, that's probably why they don't include that. I don't understand really why they wouldn't just include that as an option for you to select if you wanted to, but I would guess that that's probably a reason if I were to take a guess. All right, so that catches up the things that were mentioned previous. Let's start with what's current. Again, if you're just joining, I apologize for the camera angle. I had it set up to go the correct way, and YouTube decided to be stupid and wanted to go this way only. So that's the reason why we're going this way. I guess you get a more straight on look. It's going to look weird on playback. Obviously, I understand that you're going to have a bunch of space on the sides. It's a YouTube thing. It wasn't me, but I'm going to blame it on them. All right. So James Miller, it's great that you're doing this. I won't be able to watch live as I'm taking my grandkids to the zoo, but we'll watch the recording. Excuse me, when it's re-uploaded. I am going to re-upload this. So if you do have to jump out or anything, you can come back in. And yeah, this is for you guys. Just whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to get off your chest, please. I don't want to do the talking. I want you guys to drive this chat. So Matt says hi. Hi, Matt. Fred says good afternoon. You rock. Thank you very much, Fred. Hopefully those answers that I gave helped. And then let's see. AK, hi Dave. You tried to project M from Did a seen wide range of opinions about it. Have not. I haven't been able to get a hold of one, so I do apologize for that. I want one, but unfortunately, funds haven't been available and one hasn't been provided. Do apologize if you hear my water bottle. Got a dry throat today. All right, what's on your mind? Let's get into it. Okay, so Rama. Okay, so Rama says, one question from me. Why do you think earbuds and flathead market is not as fast growing as IEM market? Because in my country, DIY earbuds is quite a big thing. It's a good question. There's several reasons, I think. For one, IEMs do better with isolation of outside noises. And a lot of people also will find them to be more comfortable. The other thing I think that's really interesting with them, and I don't know a whole lot about flatheads. I'm really don't explore them much because I don't find them comfortable at all. And they've always hurt my ears. But I think flatheads don't grow as much. Even though you can do DIY and you can do a lot of things, impedances and tunings and things like that, but you can't really add in a bunch of drivers. There's not like the abilities to have a bunch of hybrids and things like that, because of the shape of them and the build of them. They just don't have the ability to hold that much drivers and crossovers and all that kind of thing. So I think that kind of limits them. And then I think that the other thing is it goes really to use case. There's very limited use cases that you can use a flathead in a lot of situations. If you're like me, they're not comfortable to run with. So if I'm out walking or running, jogging, anything like that, they don't stay in my ears. Two, if you need to be in an area where people don't hear what you're listening to because they're flatheads, they're going to they don't isolate well, so ear noise leaks out of them. People are going to hear them. Another thing, you don't get a lot of isolation, so you're going to hear everything going around you, which can be a plus or a minus, depending on the situation. And so I think use cases are limited. And then you have the drivability. Most of them aren't wireless, so you really couldn't use them in a portable way. You do have to have them wired. So I think there's a lot of things that hold them back. They do have a very niche type of audience that loves them, and they're very much you love them or hate them. So yeah. Dragnet, hello. How's everything going today? It's beautiful here today. Actually, here today in Indiana, the Indianapolis 500 is just running about 70 miles south of here, and it's kind of rainy, overcast. I'm not real warm. It's one of the colder Indy 500 days. So it's not the most pleasurable of days here, but I'd rather it not be 100 degrees like it usually is on Memorial Day weekend. Let's see. Oversong. Some people don't like the feeling of ear stuff. My older sister says it makes her feel like she's underwater. I never had an issue with it. I don't have an issue in that way. I have my brother-in-law's that way. He does not like in ears. He doesn't like flatheads, things like that in his ears very much. He has kind of gotten used to it a little bit. He uses some true wireless, but he does not like things really being inserted in his ears. So I understand that some people have that feeling. For me, it's the size of them. So I have very small ear hole, like where it goes in. Oh, sorry, don't know the technical name of for the ear, but it's real small. And so if you put like a 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter, 14 millimeter flathead in there, and they really start hurting my ears. And then the smaller ones just don't fit right. Let's see. Dragnet is listening through his left Porsche Bluetooth headset. Porsche like the car? That's cool. Dragnet's in Alberta, Canada. That's a little bit ways away from where I am in Indiana. Never been to Alberta. I have been, so I'm from Buffalo, so I'm kind of eastward. Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, all up in that area. I've never been west. My sister's got to go west though. Um, all right, so this is interesting. So Panthers Gaming, how much of a difference can one hear when going from a budget dongle like the Megatron to the Questal M15 or M18? Is such an upgrade overrated? So depends on how you value price would be kind of the overrated part. As far as sound goes, there is a difference. Megatron's good. Megatron has a nice, clean, clear presentation with a little bit of natural warmth. Where the differences really lie, when especially when you get into like M18i, is you get details and resolution that is better. And you also get a little bit more depth, a little bit more layering capabilities. Is it worth 5 times the price tag? That's up to you, depending on how you value what you pay for. I wouldn't say it's overrated, but I think oftentimes as reviewers, we tend to kind of overstate it a little bit, kind of make a little bit too much of a deal instead of reminding people that the differences aren't like world breaking, amazingly, world Guinness record breaking differences. It's more subtle to slightly better. Now, some things, some dongles aren't very good at all. And so when you use other things, you'll notice a significant difference. Also, keep in mind, there's a lot of other things that drive this as well. What IEM, what headphone are you using? What kind of music are you listening to? Because if you're not listening to very resolving gear that's capable of reproducing those details and resolution, doesn't really matter if you have extra. You're not going to hear it anyways. So it's kind of a collaboration of all things involved. If you're just listening to music that's not very well reproduced, not very well recorded, type of stuff, it doesn't really matter how good your gear is at giving you that information. It's just not there to give. T-Bro saying hi. Let's see. Just wanted to say hi and that I appreciate your reply to some random guy from the internet. By the way, I am from Romania. Romania, cool. You're welcome. I'm very open to questions, comments. I want to have a relationship if that's possible in that way. I want to be that friend who's just talking with you about what our passions are. And the there's no reason to get mad at each other and frustrated if we don't agree. Just agree to disagree and move on. We don't have to see everything eye to eye. And it's just an opinion. It's just a thought, and it's something that you can learn from. You can always take information, even if you don't want to hear it. You can at least understand where the person's coming from. That's the way I look at it. Is the Meze 109 a big difference from the 105? It's a different presentation. The 105 error is more of a pleasurable listen. It's a little bit more dynamic sounding, a little bit fuller, a little bit warmer. It's not quite as detailed and resolving, but in my opinion, it's more pleasurable. Whereas the 109 has a little bit more airy presentation, but it's also a little bit more forthright, has a little bit more aggression in the upper mids and lower treble region. And it's not quite as bassy. It leans a little bit more neutral, analytical than dynamic and musical like the 105. Okay, so Fred, I've never seen it where reviewers start videos with the sound, then everything else. Have you ever thought of switching up the order of the chapters in your reviews? I actually have, and it's funny you mentioned this. I've tried it. And my brain is so so set on my review style that I just automatically kind of just keep going back. I've been doing it for 5+ years the same way. And so, you really can't train old dogs new tricks. It's kind of that way. And since I don't script things out, my brain always just kind of goes to the same. I'm very, very much routine. I'm not opposed to starting out that way. It would be a real challenge for me to do it. I have tried it, and it's very difficult for me to get out of the way that I've done things. Um, I'm not sure, truthfully, though. So here's the other thing. You describe how it fits, what sources you use, and tips, cables, that type of thing, and that all kind of impacts how things sound. So if I started a review and said it's bassy, it does this, it does that, will people just listen to the sound and not understand that, hey, Dave had to change cables, he had to change tips, he listens to this type of music, he used these sources, that's why it sounds bassy and does this and this. Whereas if I explain all that at the beginning, by the time you start listening to the sound, or you skip ahead through the chapters to the sound, you kind of will understand, okay, he used this source. He didn't use stock tips. He had to change to this tip. He doesn't like the stock cable, so you're using this cable instead, things like that. You might understand the sound presentation better. I can see both ways. But that's the reason why I do my review in that setup, and why I started it many years ago, talking about all the specs and the cables and tips and the fit and all of that, so that it would lead up and build upon the sound. Let's see. Your opinion is important to us, especially with your experience. Well, thank you, Dragon. I appreciate that. I am 49 years old. I have a little bit of experience, I guess. Let's see. Fred, you're welcome. Let's see. Xavier Romo. Let's see. Hi. Hello. Hope you sometimes have the opportunity to review the DD Hi-Fi Surasi. I never even heard of it. It's pretty, but I'll wait for your honest experience in order to get it. Hugs from Mexico City. Cool. My sister lived in Mexico City for a while with her husband, somewhere in that area. Okay, now I have to look it up. The DD Hi-Fi Saras. I never even heard of this. Oh, the Surface. Okay. 4BA 1D. That is cool looking. $280. Not bad. So this is what, an offshoot of Moondrop? DD Hi-Fi is? Custom crossover, interesting. 3D printed front chamber. Does not look like the, wait a minute. Is that the BA right in the nozzle? Oof. That could be a problem. Oh, it's dampening. Okay. Huh. I'll have to look into that one. Thank you for the suggestion. I have not heard that. There's some products that are difficult to get in. Some things don't get sent at near as often. Some are more available in certain areas than others. So I'll look around, see if I can get one of those in. Thank you for the idea and suggestion. Panthers. Can you suggest a desktop mic setup headset or find that can cut off ambient noise? That's interesting that you asked that. So I actually don't use that. The microphone that I use is a Rode Podcaster, and it is a USB microphone. And so it has its dampenings and stuff built into it. As far as gaming headsets that kind of cut that off, I'm not really familiar with those. That's not really something that I've even explored. I've tried a couple of gaming headsets from like Turtle Beach and stuff over the years, and have not been impressed. So I kind of shy away from them. I just use regular old IEMs when I'm gaming. And then for microphones, I don't use a microphone for gaming. I'm a very much solo campaigner. So for my podcasting or YouTubing, live streaming, I use the USB Rode Podcaster. Thank you for Dragnet for the gift. Greatly appreciate that. It is much appreciated. Thank you. Good question so far. Any other topics that you guys would like? Open it up here. Tell me what's on your mind, and don't be afraid. This is your opportunity to ask those questions that nobody ever wants to ask. To talk about things that you're a little afraid to talk about. I'm here for you. So, let's see, Rama. Does using price to power output comparison a good way to determine a value of a source? Kind of paranoid with the drivability problem after PR2 hype back then. So for me, price really doesn't matter. And now it matters if I can afford it, right? But when I'm like researching things and looking things up, I don't really look at the price first. So price doesn't come into play for me until I hear it, I feel it in my ears, things like that. Really, as a reviewer, so I'm gonna have to switch my brain and go to consumer mode. So when I'm researching things, right, I'll have a set budget. Let's say $500. I'm going to look at different products within said price tag, and I'm going to look at what do I have available to use. What am I using? What dongle am I using, or am I using a desktop? How much power capabilities does it have? And then I'm going to look at IEM or the headphone, and I'm going to look at the requirements for that. Is it super hard to drive? Oh, I only have a dongle that's only doing 80 milliwatts at 32 ohm. This thing is 250 ohm, 94 dB sensitivity or something. That my dongle's not going to drive that. So there's going to be, obviously that'll come into play so stay in my budget and make sure that what I have available to use is going to fit that. And going to be able to perform within the minimums. As a reviewer, so the product comes in, I don't think about the cost. Cost is something that I look at way down after I've heard it and reviewed it. Okay. So when it comes in, I'm going to look at the power capabilities. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to listen to it on my various gear. And when I'm giving recommendations and talking about it is when I'm going to consider it. And when I put my ranking grade on my list, that's when value comes into play. That's when I'm going to go, okay, this is a $500 IEM or a $50 IEM. It was really hard to drive or very easy to drive. And then on top of that, it was pleasurable to listen to, or I hated it, or it's kind of meh, it was all right on what I had. And I'm going to try to portray that in my review for you all to give a recommendation. Hopefully I understood what your question is. It's really hard to look at price and power only. You have to look at the whole picture. And I know it's hard to do when you haven't heard it yet, which is why reviewers come into play. And you have to be able to have a reviewer that you can listen to and understand how they present things and trust them a little bit to be able to go, he says it works with this, this, and this. And I like how he described it. So I think that it's going to work here and it fits into my budget. It's kind of a guessing game and a trust, unfortunately. Now, for some, especially in the headphones, DAC, and amp world, some of you are able to go to the stores. Some of you are able to hear things live. Maybe you have a friend that just is filthy rich and just buys everything and lets you listen to his products. But unfortunately, a lot of us don't have that ability, including myself. I don't have any local stores that I can go and listen to. So you kind of have to trust people. If I misunderstood your question, let me know. But that's kind of what I was thinking you were asking. for me, in consumer mode, I know it sounds weird, but as a consumer, it's you have to find reviewers that you can connect with and that you can understand, and you build up a trust with them and understand where they're coming from, why they say what they say, why they believe what they believe, and then when you purchase something that they recommend, or you look at it, maybe they didn't recommend it, but you purchase it and you've heard their opinion on it, you can make a decision as to, hey, yeah, he was right, he was wrong, she was right, she was wrong. um and you build up trust more and more, and then hopefully you won't have issues where you have a problem with a device, not being driven properly, or you think it's overvalued, undervalued, or however that goes. Good question, good thought. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling there. That's difficult to everybody views value differently, and it kind of depends on how your budget is. Awesome. Fred has X-Duo XAO2 coming. Hopefully you enjoy it. Look forward to hearing some of your thoughts on it once you get it. I love that little device right here. Use it every day, literally. It is a fantastic sounding little device. Comes in $200, has enough power for most things. It struggles with some of the harder demanding headphones, but when it comes to IEMs, XAO2 is very, very competent, and has a little bass boost on it that I don't use very often, but it is fun to hit every now and then. And then it has gain, low and high gain, and then a couple of different inputs. You can use it as a preamp as well for active speakers. $200, I think it's a great value, and honestly, it's replaced the FIO K11 for me. All right, so what else is on your guys' mind? What else is out there? Any thoughts? Anything that maybe other reviewers have said or done? Question marks, things that have raised flags in your mind. You're just curious. Anything that's perturbed you, driven you, anything. All right, so Tibaru says, funny thing, I searched my emails and found my IEM history. In 2018, I got the Sony N3 AP, and in 2019, I got the Shure 840 SE for about 55% off its full price. Good, because that thing's expensive. I've actually never heard either one of those, the 846 SE or the N3 AP. Cool. That's a good little collection, though, from what I've heard about them, as far as the Shures. My purchase history is quite lengthy. Let's see. After reviewing so many sets, do you ever experience ear fatigue? Actually, I do. Especially if it's an IEM or a headphone that is mid focused or treble focused. Bass doesn't bother me as much. I don't normally get ear fatigue from, even heavy bassy stuff, unless it's like really chugging. But you can kind of change what type of music you listen to, and that change and bass won't bother as much. But upper mid range, 2 to 6K type of presence, especially super elevated and very forward, and then upper treble regions, like beyond 10K, really hurt my ears. And then also another thing that really gives me ear fatigue is the build of them. So if they like have bigger nozzles sizes, or they just don't fit very well, really, really hurts. I had something I reviewed recently, within like the last month or two, where it hurt so bad. I mentioned it in the review. I don't remember which one it was at the moment. I took that thing and put it to the side as soon as the review was done. But it hurt my ears so badly that I didn't want to have IEMs in my ears for like 3 days afterwards. Because you listen for like a week straight, pretty much. And I dreaded doing the review because I didn't want to have to I didn't want to have them in my ears to listen. And then on top of that, it was just hurt so bad. And because of the last couple of days going into a review, I'm listening a lot more consistently with that device instead of alternating other devices in. And it was so bad, I didn't want to listen to music, or have IEMs in my ears for like 3 days. So yeah, it does happen. All right, let's see. Brian Jorgens, has any budget product recently surprised you how good it was? Yeah, a few of them. Now it depends on what you consider budget. Under $100 or under 50. There were a few. I can't remember the exact models. You'd have to go through the reviews, but there were a couple that kind of stood out. Under $100, right around $100. The Dunu Kima 2 definitely surprised me at how good it was. The Titan S2 also surprised me. There was the Tanzu 1 Year SE, was good for what it performed. It was different than the original. I prefer the original, but the SE is still really good. Student edition. I'm trying to think of some others. There was the Zero Blue Crin one. That one was pretty decent. There were a few others. I don't remember them all. The Crin one, though, required foam tips. I do recall that. Let's see. T-Brute, wait for it. What? Did I miss something? I don't remember. Panthera Gaming. I see the Sennheiser HD800s and Massdrop Planars behind you. Do you use them regularly? Yes. Actually, the 800, that's the Drop 8XX. It's not the actual, official 800S. Close. Very close. It has a little bit more bass, a little bit more warmth to it, but I do use it quite a bit. It's one of my reference headphones. And then the Massdrop Para, I actually want to hear the Para too. Friend of mine went over to Munich and heard it over there. Says it's really good, slightly different than the original. But yeah, I use the Para quite a bit as well. That actually replaced my Sundara as a reference headphone. Any chance you will get your hands on an Aria Unveiled? I would hope so. Hi-Fi Min headphones for me are kind of difficult to get in for whatever strange reason. They're a little bit on the pricier side outside of my budget, so it takes a while to save money up to purchase them, and I don't get sent them very often for review. So hopefully I can get one in. Fred, whoa, yeah. Treble Well Extended. Hey there, check out his channel. Nice of you to show up. Appreciate it. And hello to you, sir. Good stuff on your channel. So shout out to Treble Well Extended. If you haven't checked out his channel, head on over there after the live stream and say hello to him. Let's see. Tibaru, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. I'm terrible with names. I can barely say my own. Let's see. The thing is that I understand those were good compared to consumer or more commercial earphones or headphones, but I did not really understand what they did until more recently. In 2022, I got the variations, and about 1 year later, I got the Oracle, the OG Oracle, which I haven't actually heard the OG one. And then another Thea Audio, including Monarch Mark III, Origin, and the Limited. Okay, I haven't heard the Origin, haven't heard the Limited. I've wanted to hear both of those. Monarch Mark III, I haven't heard either. I heard the Clairvoyance. Obviously, I have an Oracle Mark III, and I had an Oracle Mark II, but I never heard the original. I hear that the original is kind of similar to the 3, just a little bit different. I mean, I understand that about your Sennheisers and then the whatever the Sony one that you had. Totally being a little bit more consumery. And there are some good consumerish leaning tunings that are good. There are a lot of them that are very much tend to be bassier, mid focused, or V shaped for sure. So I totally understand that. But you can get some sound that is more commercial related for sure. That is what's the word? Doable, listenable. But once you hear, you mentioned you went to variations, then you went to Oracle. You definitely will hear a difference if you're listening to commercial stuff, and then you go to some of that more audiophile quality. You will definitely hear a difference. Several of my friends have experienced that lately because I've allowed them to listen to some of my stereo. I've kind of pushed them to hear some of the other stuff that I have, and they're like, "This is way different than what I normally." Yeah, you can definitely hear clarity. Dynamics are different. Okay, so Treble Extended. I'm excited about your review on the Valkyrie. I can see it behind you. Any early impressions? Valkyrie is amazing. So transportable or portable. I would say it's more desktop than portable. I mean, it's got 6,000. I think it's 6,000 milliamp battery, um, but it's pretty hefty. Here, I can see if I can get it disconnected. So I don't know who would chuck this in their in their pocket or in their bag. I mean, for one, it's like $2,500, so it's quite pricey. But also it's rather heavy, and you got the glass on it, um, and it's got all kinds of connections. So I would say it's more fit for a desk. I definitely, if I was going back and forth to like the office, riding a train or something every day, I would not carry this with me. Um, I'm not going to get this out, oh, I'm going to lunch and for an hour, I'm going to go down to the restaurant. I'm not setting this beside me and connecting it to my laptop to listen to music. Um, it's just not feasible that way, in my opinion. Outside of that, I do think it's set more for the desk, and it has plenty of power. It has a very clean and clear sound. So IFI of old was a little bit warm, lush, romantic type of sound. This is that it has that new Burr Brown Texas Instrument type of sound signature, which has more clarity and a little bit more of an airy approach while still being slightly natural warm. And I like that. So if you've heard like the Neo IDSD, the is it that? Yeah, the Pro IDSD, the new one. It's more in line with the tuning of those than it is of their older stuff. Even the Diablo is slightly warmer. I haven't heard the Diablo 2, so um, but yeah, I like the Valkyrie a lot. It's got all the options that just like IFI has on everything. But in my opinion, this is more of a lean towards neutral analytical for IFI than leaning lush romantic like they usually do. So, anyways, there's a preview for that. That'll be coming a few weeks. I've had that just a couple weeks, but I love it. And the box it comes in. Have you seen that? Um, so here, I, I love IFI. Right? They include everything, but why? I mean, it's cool, right? It looks awesome. It's wood, smells nice, but why? So if you're going to take this to the office, oh, I'm going to lunch now. Can you imagine toting it around in this? Going out, you're at the restaurant, you open the lid to this. People are thinking they're going to think you're nuts. But anyways, I love IFI though. They give you everything you need. They're one of those companies that thinks of everything when they ship it to you. Every single scenario, they're going to go, okay, you're going to use it this way. You're going to use it this way. You're going to need this. They chuck it all in the box. So that's cool. But yeah, definition of portable is fictional. Definitely. I mean, they make the hip deck, which is small and very much portable. And transportable. Transportable is you can use it in either situation and move it around. This is not transportable. When I think of transportable, it still has to be smaller than this, in my opinion. But yeah. Anyways, all right. So let's see. Opulent Otter. Okay. Hi, Dave. Any particular low noise floor separate DAC and amp you have that goes well with IEMs? Depending on your budget, the one that I really recommend for a $200 or less type of DAC amp is the X-Dual XAO2. For me, it really pretty much plays with any IEM that I've had. I can't think of anything that has been a hissy fit on that one. Another one that was pretty good at that, if I remember correctly, is the FIO K11. That comes in a little bit cheaper. And then upper price point, when you get up into the higher dollar stuff that I have on my desk, the Mytek Liberty DAC 2 is not that. It does have higher output impedance, but the FIO K19 is really good that way. And then also the FIO K9 ACAM was pretty good with IEMs in that regard. And that's pretty much about it. Yeah, we'll just keep it there. If you're going to get a Mytek, it's good for headphones on the headphone output. IEM's a little bit more picky. You do get some hissing on it. Use an external amplifier with the Mytek Liberty DAC 2, and you'll take care of that problem. Like connecting with the HPA has its own IEM setting, kind of like IFI does. All right, let's see here. Tibaru, the 846 SEs are more analytical though, so maybe really good for artists or engineers. That's what I thought. I thought the 846s were more of a neutral lean. They weren't really the consumer stuff like the lower end of that. I thought they were kind of in line with more like West Tones and stuff. They were built that way, but more mid forward, if I remember correctly. But I haven't heard them, so I'll go off of your opinion on that. Nice box. Yeah, Valkyrie's got a really cool box, but really, let's see. Yeah, IFI definition of portability is fictional. The only things that IFI really makes it as portable is the hip deck. The Diablo was even kind of questionable because it was pretty big. The Diablo 2 is even bigger. And then they have a couple of dongles, I think, that are fairly, dongles are dongles, they're portable. It's a lunchbox, definitely. It reminds me of there was a hi-fi man back in the day, not the Ananda, it might be the HE1000. I know that Susvara came in that big huge box. That's kind of what it reminds me of, but it's like, this is a DAC amp. It's supposed to be portable. You don't carry it around in that. Definitely would be crazy. All right, let's see. Xavi, you mentioned the Dunu Kima 2. Does it have great treble on your opinion? Because I've heard it doesn't. What about its timbre? Okay, so timbre is really good. I actually find the Kima 2 to be quite natural in its tone and timbre. As far as treble, I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's the most airy. It's not like the greatest, super expressive treble, but it's not boring sounding. It's not laid back, but it is a little bit more on the softer side of things. I wouldn't say it's the most expressive of treble. Opinator, appreciate the response. I'll look to consider them. You're welcome. If I come across anything else, feel free to ask questions in the comments or something somewhere, and I'll because obviously I'm just going off my old man brain here, so something else might come up at some point. So feel free to ask. I'm always answering questions. Yeah, the Ananda came in the same in a similar box. Theirs was black, and I think it had like a faux leather on it. I don't remember what was the original in a wood box, because the one that I got, which is it was still an original, but it was like second generation release. It came in like that faux leather. So I don't know if the original came in the wood box. But Hi-Fi used to do crazy stuff like that. You still have it. That's cool. Okay, so yeah, the first one came in the wood one. Mine, I have the one with the faux leather one for my Ananda. And then the somebody sent me one to review. Maybe it was an original Aria. That one came in one of those. It was a pretty beat up, and it was like kind of like cracking. It was like the what's that wood material? It's like compressed wood. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was kind of like that. And I was like really careful with the trying to make sure it didn't break the box. I think that was the Aria that I reviewed back in the day, the original. Good questions so far. We got about a half hour, 45 minutes left to go. I'm going to extend this one out a little bit. And so again, this is a live stream for you all. I'm here for you. Give my thoughts and opinions, and whatever you want to talk about, audio related. Just rant if you want, discuss things, nitpick, critique me, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours. You want to talk about crazy boxes that DAC amps come in, all that kind of stuff. One thing that does drive me nuts are attached cables. I can't stand them, but I love my little 280 Pros from back in the day, and detached cables wasn't a thing really back then, and so I understand it, but they drive me nuts. Anyways, there, I ranted. All right. Fred, sweet. Buffalo Bills cap. Are you a big fan? Yes. I grew up outside of Buffalo, about 40 miles from Buffalo. And so born and raised a Bills fan. Been to numerous games, and, so don't miss a game unless I absolutely can't make it or watch it. But yeah, I've been a Bills fan my whole life. Came out screaming, "Go Buffalo." Brian Jorgens. What is your go-to portable on-the-go setup? I have tried many dongles, but get frustrated when my USB-C port on my phone glitches out with movement. M4 Ultra is my current fave. M4 Ultra Muse Hi-Fi or Quest style? That's actually a good choice. So portable-wise, for me, portable, I don't use actually a whole lot. I'll just be honest. I do the majority of my listening in this room at this desk. But when I'm out and about and I'm using a portable setup, going on a trip or something like that, it kind of depends on what that trip's going to entail. So I will grab, if it's going to be a longer trip and I'm not doing driving or anything like that, I'll probably grab my Muse Hi-Fi M5 Ultra and some IEMs, probably the Thea Audio Oracle Mark IIIs, Westone Mach 60s, something along those lines. If it's going to be a more of a quick trip, or I'm not going to be able to connect it as much, I'll use a dongle of some sort, and it'll probably be either a Hibby FC3, a Fosse Audio DS2 or something along those lines. Again, with the same IEMs, more than likely. I rarely ever take headphones. unless I'm going to be like going on a flight, which doesn't happen often. And then it'll probably be the Stax S5s, or the heavy H1H if I want to be a bass head, something like that. But portable listening, I don't really do. One thing that I do often when I'm traveling, especially if it's gonna be like a week-long trip, like if we're going to a cabin, which we do yearly, I'll take things that I'm going to be reviewing, and I'll take one of the portable devices or a transportable. I might end up taking like the Valkyrie with me for a week, something that I can just set up and leave on one of the tables at the cabin or something like that. But yeah, I will take a DAP along also occasionally, especially if I'm going to be going on an airplane, that way I can say battery life. But my portable use actually isn't like a lot of reviewers. I actually do the majority of my listening with IEMs on desktop or using a dongle off of my computer or off my phone while sitting in this chair. Brian is Muse Hi-Fi M5 Ultra. I love it. That thing is awesome, and it's my favorite DAC and amp that's portable at the moment. That it's not quite a dongle, so I get you can get frustrated with the USB-C. It does pull and things like that, but as far as pure sound, and if you're able just to like sit and have it, laying there without moving around and jostling around, excellent device. Xavi, the IEM made from stabilized wood and great wood is the EPZ 530. I've actually heard about that, but I haven't heard it. Looks cool. You use the Bluetooth on it because of the USB-C. Interesting. Now, I don't mind the Bluetooth. Actually, the Bluetooth really works nicely. It's one of it connects real good and things like that, and it has good range. I don't have the USB-C problem, but I'm a twitchy person. I can't sit still. I move. My wife is constantly telling me sit still. And so oftentimes for me, I'm pulling out a cable, an IEM out, or I'm just, bumping it, things like that. So it'll disconnect. I do often actually pull out the USB-C from my phone or whatever, just because I'm herky jerky moving around. So I can understand that. And that is really frustrating. So you're like jamming along to a song and then all of a sudden, oh, what happened? So I get that. Bluetooth definitely saves you on that. Okay, so I'm on a New York City subway every workday, lots of bumps. That makes sense. And so if you're just having to sit there and it'll just jostle around, and USB-C only has to move a centimeter or something, definitely comes disconnected. So I totally understand that. All right, so Paul has about my rant about the cord issue. I'm not mad about attached cables, because one could say they have one less point of failure compared to detachable. But if they get damaged, it's pretty much all over unless you can repair it. But also, just as Brian and I were talking about with the USB-C, they can become disconnected real easily. And also you can really pull on these, and you can be going along and you can rip the headphone right off your head and damage them that way. So there's pluses and minuses to both. But I do love these headphones. For a classic monitor, 280 Pros, man, they've lived the test of time. All right, let's see. Michael Anthony Bishop, I really like your reviews. I see the Sennheiser 800s back there. I was considering getting them at a discount and was wondering, what do you think of them nowadays? Well, as mentioned earlier, those are actually the drop Sennheiser 8XX. They're not the exact 800s. So those ones, I do believe they're still available on drop at times, or you might be able to find them used. They are slightly warmer and a little bit bassier, this version is, than the regular. So but these are closer, in my opinion, to the 800S than they are the original. Um, they're just not quite as bright and as forward. So the 800s have a little bit of a bite to them and a little bit of aggression, depending on what source you're using. Now, if you put them on a tube, they become amazing on a tube amp. But um, they can be a little bit forward and a little bit aggressive with the 800. The 8XX from Drop fixes that. Plus, you get a little bit bass and a little bit more body to them. But you lose slightly a little bit of soundstage. It's not quite as wide sounding as the 800, which is a bonus for me because I feel like the 800's soundstage sounds a little bit artificial. It sounds like it's a little bit faked out, trying to be always wide and big sounding. So to me, the 8XX actually sounds slightly more natural and accurate. But I like the 800S quite a bit too. Highly recommend it. It's a very good headphone. Just a little bit, you have to know what you're getting into with it. It can be a little shocking as far as the aggression and the treble, and a little bit lack of bass. It doesn't have quite as much body. Fix that with a tube amp though. Good questions. Anything else? Appreciate everybody swinging by. Good crowd today. And if you miss any sections of this, if you didn't get in until just now, or if you had to cut out, we'll be posting this back up after we're done, so you can rewatch it. Any other questions, comments, concerns, rants, annoyances, pet peeves, critiques, recommendations, feedback? What's next on the docket this week? So you may have seen it back here. This headphone. So I got at the beginning, Fred asked about different technologies that I see coming in. This headphone actually has that. Now, this technology has been around a long time, but it hasn't been really visited. So this is a dynamic and planar headphone. So it has a 14.5, I think it is, 15 millimeter planar tweeter, along with a 50 millimeter dynamic driver. And this is a Kiwi Ears Thea. So that review will be coming. And then somebody recommended a gaming IEM for me. And even though I'm not big into gaming and anymore, used to be a lot more than I am now, and I'm very limited on what I game with, being that I'm gaming only really racing games and sports games now. I was like, I don't know, but you know what? Gaming's gaming. You still have a soundstage, and so you can check things out in that way. And someone recommended these. Apparently, they're getting a little bit of popularity with some reviewers, and that's Padsmith. I've never even heard of Padsmith. Apparently, they make a lot of like desktop mouse pads and things like that. But anyways, they made an IEM, and so I purchased it with the help of funds from supporters like you, and we will be doing a review of the Padsmith IEM, which looks like this. Purple. You gotta like purple, right? So anyways, we'll be doing a review of that. I will be focusing a little bit on the gaming side of the review a little bit more than normal, but we'll still talk about how it performs sound-wise. Okay, so Praytik asks, what do you think about planars in both the IEM and headphone world? I like planar. Planar definitely does some things really good, and it has improved uh, as manufacturers have kind of played around with it and learned how to tune it. So planars are really good with technicalities. They seem to be very detailed and nicely resolving most of the time. Um, and they also have a nice ability of extension and airiness. So IEMs, planars, I like them more as planar themselves, as a driver itself. Hybrid wise, using them with as tweeters or as mid ranges, things like that. I think manufacturers still kind of struggle to tune. I'm not really in love with a lot of the implementations of hybrids where planar is involved, that I've heard. Now, it's not like they're terrible, but I find that they struggle in being kind of a solo piece and a combination unit. But when they're alone in separate driver, I really enjoy the solo driver, so to speak, planar IEMs. Headphone wise, I love them. The bigger the planar driver, the better they perform, it seems like. And the same thing in IEMs. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why I don't like IEMs with like a planar tweeter or planar mid range, because those drivers tend to be smaller. So I find that the bigger the planar driver, the better they perform. They push more air, they have more fullness. That airiness and extension really comes out, and you get more space, in the imaging and placement, and the technicalities really come out. One thing though is planars can be tend to have an aggression to them, and a little bit more forthrightness in its presentation. So the implementations have kind of started to tweak that, and some of the newer IEMs, especially, have learned how to kind of control that a little bit. Headphone wise, you can do a lot of tuning tricks to kind of bring that down, or enhance it and also develop around it. So um, I have several planars behind me, and then so yeah, I like both of them. All right. Um, Fred. Fred wants to ask, do cables really make a difference? If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you'll know exactly what I'm going to say. Yes and no. Um, so I own a lot of cables, especially IEM cables. And as you can see over here on camera, I have a lot of cables right there for headphones. So, and there's more down below. I have a drawer full of them. So cables, yeah, they do make a difference. They can make a difference. And sometimes they don't make a difference at all. Where I notice differences most in cables is in the type of wires. So copper, silver, hybrid, copper, silver, silver plated, things like that. Anything with copper, especially copper by itself, is going to have a little bit more of a warmer presentation, and a little bit more fullness, going to be a little bit more dynamic, and have a little bit more of a natural tone and timbre. Silver is still going to have the tone and timbre and naturalism, but it's not going to be quite as dynamic sounding. It's not going to be quite as full sounding for the most part. And then it silvers tend to be a little bit more detailed and resolving, and they also have a little bit more of a forthrightness in their presentation. Those are kind of the differences. Now, when I say you hear those differences are small. Some cables do make bigger differences, and as we discussed earlier in the live stream, you also have to have everything downstream in your source, your DAC, your IEM, your headphone, whatever you're connecting to it, to be able to reveal that. You can't take something that's real cheap and really badly resolving and connect a cable to it and expect it to be really good resolving and detailed. It doesn't work magic in that regard. So do keep that in mind. Um, some cables, you know, there's lots of snake oil in cables also, so you have to be careful of that. Some of them make wild claims. We douse this in, you know, this type of material, and it has these type of diamonds and these type of gems and blah 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 blah. Okay, but how does it perform? You just kind of have to hear it and listen to it. And there are some cables that I have that cost a lot of money that I'm like, I don't like it. Some of them make it sound worse, in my opinion. So it kind of depends. But yeah, you can hear a difference. It's kind of like DACs and amps. You can hear differences. Um, Fred, you're welcome. I pray take. That's very interesting. I had modified my S12 Pro, removing the foam in it and then poking out the inner vent to lower the bass. It's from Short Bus Audio. Okay, Michael. Okay, good. And his mod, and it made the S12 much better. Now, interesting. I haven't heard the S12 Pro. I've only heard the S12 and the S12 24 edition. I haven't heard the Pro edition. So that's interesting to hear that he did that tuning. Now the S12, I don't know if the 12 is this way, but the S12 original was kind of forthright in his presentation. It was very direct, and could be a little bit intense and aggressive. So I can understand how you would maybe alter that by making some of those changes to it. That's kind of cool. Seemingly IEM planars are quite similarly tuned, but looking at headphone planars makes me excited. I love how well they can represent each part of the frequency very well. Yeah, planars are really good technical. If you really want to nitpick your music, whether you headphone or IEMs, planars will give you they're very separated, very detailed, very resolving, real good with layering and imaging. You can nitpick music apart with planars. And they're very sensitive to how they're tuned, and like EQ, they respond real well to that. So I can understand that part of it. They do tend to be harder to drive, and take a little bit more power, which is why oftentimes you don't see them being used as monitors on stage and mixing and mastering type of settings. So very interesting technology. I do think that some manufacturers have kind of learned how to tune it, and how to work around that and add in. And I do like the fact that they're trying to do them in hybrids. I just don't think they're quite there yet. They need to continue exploring that. But I'm excited about the Kiwi Ears Athea, with the dynamic and the planar tweeter. But we'll see if that smaller size tweeter needs to be bigger or not, in the review. Good thoughts, though. It's an interesting one. Michael does some interesting stuff with some of his mods. I haven't tried any of his mods directly because I don't like to. I'm not very good at modding myself, and also I don't like to really take things apart. So, but the way Michael does things, very unique channel, and he's a cool guy. So if you haven't checked out his channel, check out Short Bus, Michael. Speaking of the S1224, do you consider it like a different set entirely to the S12 original, or slightly different with better tonality? I mean, they pretty much fit the same. They're built the same. They have different tone, different color. They are definitely a different presentation. The 24 is warmer, a little bit more musical. It's not quite as aggressive in its presentation. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. I think the 24 is a little bit more of the pleasurable side, and a little bit more musical, not quite as analytical as the original. And but I understand that too. I don't want to mod, or excuse me. I understand that not wanting to mod, and I don't like the EQ either. Yeah, I don't like the EQ either. I EQ if I have to, if I'm trying to figure something out, which is really strange, but that's for me, for my personal listening and for reviewing. But when I'm at church using a soundboard, and doing a program or service, I EQ. So EQ has its places. It's just, for me, it's not in my listening. Excuse me a moment. Good questions today. Thank you for everybody showing up. Thanks for the stream. They're great. You're welcome. If you're enjoying the stream and you enjoy the channel, give a thumbs up. If not, I understand. Fred, do you have an opinion on burn-in? I actually do. So burn-in is something that I do just for consistency's sake in my reviews. Every product that comes in gets about 40 hours on it, maybe more. And this is listed in my review process of how I go about it, but everything goes through it. It works it through just for consistency's sake. Do I hear differences? Not really. There have been a few instances where I've heard something change. But they're very rare. Most of the changes, if you do hear something, is really quickly, maybe an hour or two into the listen. You might notice something, but usually there's not much of a difference. And that goes for any type of product: decks, amps, headphones, IEMs, cables, all this stuff. These people that claim 200, 300, 400. I saw one. I received a cable. It's up here for my, what was that one for? That's for my Audeze LCD5. I just bought it. It's like some audiophile type cable. And they claim like $500 worth of burn-in. Sure. If I can remember what something sounded like 500 hours ago, then I have a fantastic memory. And I honestly can't. I mean, there's subtleties that'll stand out about things. Like if something's like massively aggressive, in its mid range or in its treble, and then it kind of tames down, you can notice that. If the bass is like really bloated and muddy at first, and then as the pads wear in, as you know, as the driver kind of breaks in, and it becomes a little bit more cleaner in the bass, you'll notice that type of stuff every now and then. But yeah, I don't put much credence in burn-in. I do it for consistency's sake only. I think burn-in is just somebody that wants to believe that their gear needs it. And they don't take into effect, you changed music, volume, pads wore in, tips wore in, you got more comfortable in your ears, things like that. I mean, things settle. New products do. I mean, you have to break things in a little bit. That's what that is. That's not, yeah, I don't put much credence in burn-in. And there's no real proof that burn-in has taken major league differences in products. If you can prove to me through some form of measurements that legitly show this made a significant difference, then I might start believing it a little bit more. Yeah. Fred, thank you for putting up with my basic questions. You're helping me to better understand the hobby. Hey, you're welcome. They're not basic and they're not simple. You got to learn. And I'm very happy to help and explain. And it's, if you don't ask, you're not going to know. And you got to ask, you got to learn. And so I have no problems answering questions. That's what we're doing this for. We got about 10, 15 minutes left before I have to run. And so any questions that you have, any thoughts, any opinions, anything that you just want to hear me talk about, audio related, anything you want to get off your chest. Maybe you saw something, heard something. What music do you listen to nowadays, and on which headphones do you prefer them? So I did in the Is it still up here? Oh, it dropped. So on my website, if you go to thehonestaudiophile.com, there is a link to my reference music. And there's I think 85 songs in there. That'll explain, kind of what I'm looking for in that regard. And then what do I listen to them on? IEMs would be the Westone Mach 60. Headphones are the Audeze LCD5, and then a few other things that have been like the Austrian Audio HX 60 gets used quite a bit. Sennheiser 8XX, Moondrop Para, IEMs also. We have the Thea Audio Oracle Mark III, that type of stuff. What are your thoughts on the Chinese headphone market that's coming up? Well, Kiwi Ears, I've heard several of theirs, the Lips, the Division, and now the Thea, Moondrop Para. There's a few others. Fio, obviously, has been making headphones. There are a couple other manufacturers that have come out. Of course, you have some of the bigger named ones that have been around for a while. But I think that it's interesting, the IEM ones that are coming out, the IEM makers are jumping in, and I kind of like it. It's giving a little bit different approach to the tuning. Now, I think that there's some tuning selections that they need to understand that headphones don't quite project the same way. So there's been some struggles with the bass on some of them. They're a little bit too bassy or bass light. Some of them are still tuning them to be a little bit too mid forward or a little bit too upper mids, lower treble region forward. So you have a lot of presence, range 5K to 8K presence that can be a little bit ear piercing because of the way headphones present things. So there's some learning curves there, but I actually like it. It's a little bit new face, a little bit different of approach. And I think that it's a good to challenge some of the mainstays, Hi-Fi Men, Sennheiser, AKG, some of those companies. They need, and some of the others that, Audize's and things like that, they need a challenge every now and then. They need to know that, hey, there's somebody else here that people are looking at, price wise and sound wise, that they're enjoying or using more. So what can we do to change? And, competition's good. I do think that there's been some quality products. I haven't always liked all of them, but there's been some good stuff that has come out in that regard. So yeah, more to come this week with the Thea review, obviously. I would like to see some of these companies. Now, Hi-Fi Man's kind of done a few of the IEMs. Sennheiser obviously has, but I would like to see them kind of try to compete with that. Now, Audeze did their weird open ear planar thing. I'd like to see them actually try to do one that was more of a regular universal fit. Stuff like that. I'd like to see Sennheiser try to expand on their stuff a little bit. Austrian Audio would be an interesting choice to do an IEM, I think. That'd be kind of cool. So do it in reverse. The ones that are more common for headphones, why not try an IEM, see what you can do, and vice versa. Competition. I like competition. See what people can do. Mizu, didn't check the channel in a while. Have you tried any focals? I have not. Last focal that I've had on the channel, I think, was the Clears way back yonder. Focals don't come by very often, so hope to get some in though at some point. I like focal headphones. Heard a couple at audio shows last year, but nothing as of recent. See you guys in the next one. It's 1 a.m. Whew. Nice talking to you, Dave. Yes, nice talking to you too. And again, if you guys haven't checked out Treble Well Extended's channel, head on over there and give him a subscription. He earns it. He's a good guy and puts out some good content. So check him out. Thanks for swinging by. Sydney Sleeper, do you have a recommendation for a closed back around 150 to $200? 150 to $200 closed back depends on what you're looking for. So you could go with something that's simple if you want a little bit warm, natural sounding closed back monitor. You could go with a Sennheiser 280 Pro. It's been around forever. You could go if you like a little bit of an aggressive sound, but a fun sound and big, bold sound, you could go with a FIO FT1. Just be aware it is a little bit aggressive in the treble. You could close back. Whoop. About $200. Am I missing something? Hang on. Give me a moment. Let me get over here to my list. Headphones, sort by price. Whoops. Sort by price. Come on, Dave. You go to this list every single day. You should know how to sort it. So you close backs. Close backs are kind of tricky in that price point. Seems like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, Rode NTH 100, and then you also have the no, I don't want that one. That's an open back. You could go with, if you can go a little bit higher, you could go with an AU and SR7000 or SR7000. A little bit more up, you could go with the High X60 from Austrian Audio. You might be able to get one of those used. They tend to be a little bit cheaper. That's kind of where I would look in that range. All right. Saw something else come through here. How do you feel about the HiFiMan 400 SE? 400 SE to me is a decent starter planar. It's been a long time since I've heard it. I don't remember exactly. I did a review of it several years ago. It's not the most technical of planars out there, and it's a little bit on the aggressive side. If I remember correctly, I would recommend watching my review. I honestly don't remember exactly, but it's a decent starter price point. But honestly, if I was getting into planar headphones, I wouldn't go with the budget stuff. I would save up and move into about the $300 to $400 price point. I go Moondrop Para, HiFiMan Sundara, things like that, higher priced. The budget stuff for me when it came to planar headphones is just kind of adequate, but you're not really truly getting a good value for it. Where the value really lies, in my opinion, with planar headphones over ears is where you go HiFiMan Sundara, Moondrop Para, and up. That's a good question, Michael. So Michael asks, I was wondering at what price point for amps, more or less, do you think we can get true high-end sound with that seemingly effortless dynamics and big sound stage and so on? You can get that with a cheaper budget. But I think if you really want to go pure DAC or pure amplifier, if you go DAC amp, you could go with the FIO K17 coming in at about $1,000. You get a great value. You got DAC and amp. But you could get just amp. You could go cheaper than that. You could go with something like a Drop SMSL HO150X and connect it to your DAC of choice. It will depend on what your DAC is, but amplifier wise, I think the cheapest I would recommend for an amplifier coming in at $200 is the SMSL HO150X for that type of sound that you're looking for. But if you want the true experience and all, bells and whistles and all that, I would leap upwards. But do you need to go beyond that? Probably not. I think the FIO K17 is probably kind of like right in the middle of the road type of for what the majority of people will need. Now, if you want to go a little bit more, you could go K19 or MyTech Liberty. But amp only, if you want to stay in this $200 budget, I'd probably look at HO150X. Let's see. Sydney, I just use it for movies and story in games. Okay, so for $150, $200 for that purpose, you definitely could go 280 Pro. They come in, I think they're about $80. And they have really good mid-range, so your vocals and things like that will sound very good for movies, and they do pretty decently with placement and things like that. Now, it's not the most expansive soundstage on the 280s. Excuse me. So if you're doing gaming more than movie watching, I'd go Rode NTH 100. But the problem is Rode NTH 100s can be susceptible to breaking. They're not quite as well built as a 280 Pro. So if you're going to sleep in them, I would go 280 Pro because those things are built like a tank. So it kind of depends on which way you're leaning. If you're going to do sleeping, I'd probably go 280 Pro. But if you really want to, if you can find an Austrian Audio HX 60 used in that price range, I would get that because they're better built and have a bigger sound stage and more accurate natural tone and timbre than either one of them. All right, let's see. Sydney says the HE400 SE costs about $50. Yeah, I mean, for $50, it's not a bad deal. If you really just want an introduction to what Planars can do, $50 is a risk if you're willing to spend it. But truthfully, for me, I'm more of I'd rather spend it on something a little bit better quality, a little better sounding, and I would just save up. But $50 isn't bad. If you can get a HE400 SE for $50, that's a pretty decent deal. Praytech, you're welcome. All right. It's a shame from India accessing all the deals outside are thwarted hard by customs. So we have to depend on importers here, and they never lowered prices that much. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Here in the US, I don't deal with that as much. But I can imagine that's an extra expense, and that would be really frustrating. Hopefully, maybe we'll get some fair trading around the world and we won't have to deal with that as much. Let's see. Michael, interesting. My current DAC is the IFI Neo DSD2. Okay, very good. I like that DAC. DAC is excellent, but the amp section lacks that which I asked for above. Yeah, absolutely. So you could take the Neo 2, which I love that DAC. That's a great natural sounding DAC. Love it. You could connect that to like a drop SMSL HO150X or something along those lines, and you would get an excellent pairing. You can get 6 watts of power. Now, it's not a true balanced amplifier, but you don't have to worry about that. In my opinion, it still sounds excellent. Or you could go with angular alternate amplifier, which I can't think of at the moment. Sorry, but you could, there's a lot of very clean sounding amplifiers. I wouldn't go clinical, but I definitely would go with something that's clean and natural sounding as far as an amp. And pair it with your Neo, you'd have an excellent setup. But I love the HO150X. It's one of my favorite budget amplifiers. All right, well, I'm going to start shutting down the live stream about 5 minutes, so you don't have to run off right now. But I do greatly appreciate everybody swinging by. We've had a good crowd in. good numbers throughout. So thank you very much for everybody that's showing up. Good questions. And we should do more of this. Again, this was a live stream for you guys. This wasn't about me choosing the topics or, controlling the narrative. I want you guys. This is for you because oftentimes you have to sit and listen to us reviewers. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask questions and discuss things. So we'll do this more often. Maybe once a month we'll open it up to open mic and let you all do your thing. Sorry, I keep kicking my microphone stand, so if you hear that ringing, I do apologize. It's my big feet getting in the way. But I really do want. I appreciate you guys a lot. You mean a lot, and it's if it wasn't for you guys, it wouldn't drive me. I wouldn't have anything to do it for. So I appreciate everything that you guys do and the questions you ask and that you come around and ask questions and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. So you're very welcome. Praytech, Sydney, Michael, and everybody else. So thank you all for it because it means a lot. Last chance, last call. Anything else that any rants, any frustrations that you need to get off your chest before we go? Have a great holiday. Definitely. Will do. Thank you. You too, if you're in the US, happy holiday. Happy Memorial Day. Maybe you'll be off work. Won't have to work today. I do have to work Monday night, but that's by choice. All right, so we will call it quits for today. Thank you for everybody that swung by. Appreciate it. Don't forget to check out the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel, all that kind of stuff is listed down below. And don't forget to give a thumbs up, thumbs down, and if you want to support the channel, there's various ways that you can do it down below. If you're interested in any of my reviews, rankings, music recommendations, gear recommendations, listed down below. So check out all the links down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy. And we'll talk to you all later. Have a good one.